Alright you guys, so we're now on my Gold Paladin deck profile for my final VPremium videos. And to get this deck profile started off, I'm going to start off with the star of today's deck profile, which is going to be 4 copies of Spectral Duke Dragon. Now in my heart, Aglovale will always be the true champion, but as of right now, Spectral Duke Dragon is just that guy. He introduces multiple Vanguard attacking in a Vanguard-centric strategy that we haven't seen for Gold Paladin in a long time. He does stick to his ability of just being able to retire units and get the additional attack. He's pretty much his limit break self, but having the additional Vanguard attack and focusing that on our opponent while getting the multiple rearguard to attack for a very cheap cost is really amazing to have right now. And because he does get that permanent 1000 power and critical against our opponent, that means that our Vanguard attack is always going to be extremely scary. And this is pre-triggers and pre-boosters. So becoming a 13k Vanguard that can attack multiple times with a critical and getting the additional Excel marker is pretty much like playing this deck with both a Force 2 and an Excel 1 or 2 that we're going to potentially play. Moving on to my next grade 3, I play the best Gold Paladin unit ever, which is 4 copies of Bluish Flame Liberator Percivial. Bluish Flame Liberator Percivial doesn't need to be the star of the deck. The fact that he offers you a free unit and a free Excel marker is so amazing to have, as I've stated for my Aglovale deck profile. For my last grade 3, I play 4 copies of full Cavalier Dragon. So this Gold Paladin deck is unique for VPremium, as this isn't a Vanguard centric clan unless you're playing Raven-haired Ezel, but we're not talking about him. So full Cavalier Dragon is here to essentially give us the additional 5000 power to make sure that our Spectral Duke Dragon attack is as scary as possible. He also offers you a free superior call. In a deck like this, we do get a lot of soul charging because the Vortimer cards, when they are retired for his ability, they do put themselves back into the soul with the other resources that we're going to get from them, meaning that we have a lot of soul at our disposal. So if we can just go ahead and take advantage of that for free and with the greatest of ease, I don't see a reason why that's a problem. It is time for the grade 2s, and for my first grade 2, I'm playing 4 copies of Black Dragon Knight Vortimer. It's important to play 4 copies of Vortimer. Black Dragon Knight Vortimer is a part of the ride chain. You need to max out 4 copies of him so that you can search him out with the Scout of Darkness Vortimer. He offers us an additional counter charge. He's a 10k beat stick. And when rode upon for our Spectral Duke Dragon, he lets us get 2 free superior calls, meaning that your first attack with your Spectral Duke Dragon is pretty much guaranteed unless you have no hand and you've got nothing left in play before. The additional counter charge that he offers just means that it's another form of resource management, which is something that this deck has extremely padded down, which is why it is so powerful and one of the best decks out in the moment. Vortimer being able to give us all of that in just 1 card is why this card is one of the best Gold Paladin units out in the game right now. For my next grade 2, I play 3 copies of Advance of the Black Chains Kahedin. Kahedin is an offer of board calling for the deck. Since we have access to pretty much every form of resource management, we can pretty much counterblast and soul blast and get rid of cards as much as we want, as everything's going to go towards your Spectral Duke Dragon anyway. So having Kahedin to be able to fetch out pieces from our deck with just a simple cost as well as deck manipulation is extremely helpful. And because we are playing Hoel in the deck, you are going to be able to get the additional effect off to get your card drawback to make up for some of the resources that you've lost just to go into this card that are from your hand, as this card is a discard. And then finally, I played 2 copies of Oath Liberator Aglovale. Since we are playing 4 copies of Percivial, having the ability to search out Aglovale from the deck or the drop zone is extremely important, because in case we miss out on just one of them to the damage zone and we just don't ever heal it out, we always have another one to go into. I only think that 1 copy of Aglovale in any deck is really just necessary, as there are other key grade 2 pieces that I would like to play. But because you really need to see Aglovale for this deck and just get the extra soul in case you miss out on your ride chain or get the additional power for his attacks, then having 2 copies of him in this deck is actually really helpful to what it is that we need to do. Now it's time for the grade 1 Vanguards. So for my next card, I'm going to go ahead and show 4 copies of Listener of Truth Dindrane. The best supporting Gold Paladin unit, hands down, Soul Blast 1, draw a card, or Soul Blast 1, counter charge. Like I said, this deck has a lot of soul at its disposal, so if we're in a bad pickle or we're just not seeing our knights to get us our resource management, then we have this card here just to solve that problem for us. For my next grade 1, I play 4 copies of Stronghold of the Back Chains Hoel. For my next grade 1, I play 4 copies of the Strongholds of the Black Chain Hoel. Since we're playing Kahedin in this deck, we have Hoel to take advantage of the additional 10,000 power that we can give to our units. Because this deck is more Vanguard focused, it does run into the generic Excel problems that you have, which is you're not going to get all the power that you need for your rearguard attacks since you're pretty much putting everything in your Vanguard as what this deck is focused on. And this deck does not play fronts, I'm just going to say it now. So having Hoel to make sure that your rearguard columns are dangerous too is important, and the fact that you need this card to get the additional card draw with Kahedin is why we also need to max out 4 copies of this so that all of our attacks are relevant. And finally, for my last grade 1, I play 4 copies of the Scout of Darkness Vortimer. Scout of Darkness Vortimer is the most important grade 1 in the entire deck. He's the reason why our riot chain is able to be consistent as possible. You need to max out 4 copies of this card to make sure that you see Spectral Duke Dragon or Black Dragon Knight Vortimer, whatever key piece you're missing in the moment. And his ability to put himself into the soul to get your Vanguard more power when retired just helps enforce the idea that we're playing a Vanguard-centric deck with our Spectral Duke Dragon. And now we're going to move on to our triggers. So I play 4 copies of the Flame of Victory. I play 4 copies of the Knights of Blue Skies Shank. I play 4 copies of Halo Shield Mark. I play 4 copies of Elixir Sommelier. And then finally, I play 1 copy of Crimson Lion Cub Kryph. Alright, you guys, so we are at the point in the deck profile where I like to talk about what marker I think is best to play. And to be honest with you guys, I think everyone saw this coming, but in my opinion, Excel 2 is the marker that I go into most of my games. It's the best marker for an Excel deck like this where we want to be able to draw into our pieces to keep our strategy going, or if we're missing anything for our right chain, we need to be able to thin our deck out as soon as possible to get the key pieces that we're missing. And the 5,000 power doesn't really matter for our rear guards, only because everything is focused on Spectral Duke Dragon. Is what I normally would say, but I would be lying if I said Excel 1 has not come up in a few games lately. Now, some of you are wondering, well, you just said all that good stuff about Excel 2, why am I seeing Excel 1 on my screen? Let me tell you why. Don't click off just yet, or don't say anything in the comments just yet. Let me explain. So, because our strategy is Vanguard centric, that means that our opponent naturally will see our Gold Paladin pieces or our Vortimers early, and they're just going to know that we're playing Spectral Duke Dragon like cats out the bag, which means that they are going to start manipulating the cards in their hand and the pieces they have on board just to specifically set up against that attack. And knowing that we even have cards like Hoel or anything that we don't show early, they're just going to be focusing more on our Vanguard attack, as because our rear guards aren't going to be relevant. And in case they're just thinking about if we have fronts or not, because they don't know depending on how we manipulate our deck, then they're not going to care about our rear guard attacks. And what Excel 1 does is it throws off their entire defensive plan, because that additional 10,000 power onto the rear guard circle, and then when you call something new to it, makes your rear guard attacks now relevant, because you're going to attack with all your rear guards first, or maybe like the first 2 that you have, and then retire what you can, and then maybe keep like 1 or 2 rear guard around depending on where you're at in the game. But with Percivial and Aglovale combined, this makes their attacks a lot more relevant. And if you fail with Spectral Duke Dragon, or you just know that your opponent can survive both Spectral Duke Dragon attacks, because Spectral Duke Dragon will be a critical 2 with double drive checks, having a unit on Excel 1 with the additional 10,000 power, any power-up effects it might have, actually does throw your opponent's defensive off a little bit. And in certain games, I found that Excel 1 just got the job done more because they're just expecting Excel 2. They don't even question it. So that additional 5k power with the additional power effects on the rear guard actually does matter sometimes. But I'm only showing this because this has just been a very rare case, but it's important to know about. I just want to make sure that everybody knows all their options when they're playing any of my decks. And that's why I had to just put my Excel one out there. Alright you guys, so that is it for today's deck profile. Thank you so much for watching this video. Go ahead and hit the thumbs up button if you please. It really does help the channel. Also, do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, as well as hitting that notification bell so you guys are notified with all the deck profiles and discussions that I have coming out as we are heading towards the end of VPremium. Also, if your friend's looking for a Spectral Duke Dragon deck to play, go ahead and share this video with them, as this is their template to get started off with, as all my deck profiles are. And stay tuned for the rest of the VPremium decks that I'm coming out for this week. Peace.